And how long did this one take to paint?
I don't know, man. Like 100 hours or something?
Man, that is way too much time. But don't you worry, I'll get you sorted out. You give this a listen.
A cassette tape.
Yeah, you might need to rewind it first, so just stick a pencil in it.
Doesn't it seem like with painting miniatures that we've got to choose between painting something fast and painting something that looks good? And if we want to improve, we actually have to take our time and really focus and make sure every single step is done well. And so we get so intense in the painting process until we go cross-eyed. But I've got a little secret. In my painting journey, I've found this beautiful combination of having fun while improving while I'm miniature painting is all tied into something I like to call speed painting with purpose. So let's start up the Frozen Sonic 8K Mini, print out this ridiculously cute budgie pirate, and walk through the important steps to improve the quality of your finished minis in much less time than you might think. By the way, what the hell is a budgie anyway? I have no idea. I'm pretty sure it's a bird of some kind, but it is a fun word to say, isn't it? Budgie. Not to be mistaken with budgie smugglers. Now, it's important to note that this version of speed painting isn't about cranking out 40 goblins or space marines as fast as humanly possible. It's about making your D&D character mini or heroes in your Warhammer army really stand out and look great. But even more importantly, it's about honing your painting skills in the process. So not only at the end of the painting session will you have a model you'll be proud of, you're also maximizing your time at the painting desk. So each future mini will be better than the last. All right, first and foremost, let's focus on paint and the paint palette. I'm going to put most or all of the paints I'm going to use for this entire paint project out on the palette before I even begin. Why? Because I want to be focusing on painting the entire time. I don't want to be distracted thinking about anything else other than the paint and the model. And that includes trying to think about what other colors I need for a different part of the model. I'm only using about 6 to 10 colors on each project. Why? Because this allows me and forces me to learn how to mix my paints. I don't need to know what the final color is going to look like when I mix these two colors together, but I'm going to roll with it. What I'm doing is I'm actually improving my idea behind colors and color theory, and mixing paints as an organic part of my painting process. When it comes to which paints to use, don't stress too much about that. Just about any miniature paint that you have access to is going to do the job just fine. I do personally prefer to use paints that have single or minimal amount of pigments in each color. That means when I mix them together, they're still going to keep a nice vibrant tone, and it gives me more flexibility in the painting process. But if you did want to see specifically which paints and brushes and tools that I prefer to use most often, I've got those down in the video description below. You can check out any of those affiliate links, and if you do purchase through those links, I do get a slight kickback, so that supports the channel, and thank you to those that use them. Before I begin painting a specific section of the model, I will make a few mixes of colors right on the palette that I know I'm going to use as I begin the painting process of that surface. I want to be focused on painting when I get to that step and not on mixing more colors. The more I can put my attention really into just one thing, the quicker I'll get it done and the more quality that final product will have. And this truly is a massive help when it comes to not only speeding up the pace at which you paint, but also improving the quality of your final product and learning some important things along the way. Think about it this way. What we're trying to do is take away all distractions from us just focusing on the model, the paint, and the brush. Now, this doesn't mean we need to take it super seriously. It just means my brain isn't jumping in and out of its focus zone, and it's just worrying about being creative and learning about how those three things interact: the paint, the brush, and the model, and learning and reacting to that. When I'm first laying out the colors through paint on my model, I like to work in fairly thick paint. This is because I want to see what the paint is going to do and how it's going to look very quickly, so I can react and change if I need be. If I don't like the way a yellow is looking, I don't want to have to build it up over 3 or 4 layers to get full opacity before I change my mind that I want it to be a slightly different color. It's all about quick interactions, quick learnings, and moving on to the next step. Oh, another really important thing here that I need to tell myself often is this is not about making something perfect before I move on to the next step. And that's not to say our final product isn't going to look perfect or as close to it as we can get, but it just means that early on in the painting process, we can waste so much time by trying to make each blend perfect and by making sure that we don't have any mistakes in any section of the model before we move on. And this is a waste of time. Early on in the painting process, we're just trying to make sure that the colors look good, they are where we want them to be, and we'll worry about refining at the end. For example, in this model, I used some reference photos of budgies to give myself an idea of what kind of color scheme I wanted for the feathers. It's the most important aspect of this whole model. So I was just focused on getting the right colors in the right spots and really seeing if they popped, if they looked the way I wanted them to look. And since I pulled together a couple different reference photos, some things I liked from each, and combined them, I just wanted to see how they looked together before I moved on. Another key component of speed painting with purpose is using vibrant colors. Look, it's easy for us to just lean back on desaturated browns and grays and not super vibrant pinks and yellows and reds and oranges, but those colors are really going to jump out at you at the table. They're really going to make something stand out. So don't be afraid to try all sorts of different vibrant colors across your mini. The next valuable thing about speed painting with purpose is its ability to allow us to try new things and fail fast and move on. By this, I mean we shouldn't be afraid to try something new, try something for the first time, test something out. And because we're painting quickly and only going to be at this model for a few hours, we get to try something out, but not get to the point where we get overly frustrated. Each of those repetitions will build on each other as we paint more and more models. And we'll be learning quickly, failing fast, and moving on and finishing up a cool looking model. And look, this might be a really stupid thing for a mini painting YouTuber to say, but just watching YouTube videos on how to paint things doesn't actually make you a better painter. Look, you may figure out something and it may make sense in the video, but until you sit down and you actually actively paint with that process, it's not going to stick in your brain. You're not going to have your own aha moments. So it's great to learn via watching, but it's not really going to sink in. You're not really going to grow as a painter until you try it 2, 3, 4 times. And that doesn't mean you have to spend hours and hours and hours trying that one thing. It just means figure it out a little bit, screw it up, who cares, finish the model, it'll still look good, and you can try it again on the next one. So for this model, budgies have some really odd patterns and dots across their feathers. And while I was nervous about screwing up all that I had painted underneath this step, if I didn't attempt it, I'll never learn from it, and I won't be able to improve on it in the next mini. And don't worry so much about making those mistakes. It's just paint. You can either paint over the top of it and try again, or you can just make the best of a not ideal situation. And you've learned in that process. You'll have figured out something that you'll do differently next time. And that is how we improve. The sponsor of today's video and the creator of this cute little budgie mini is Cobra Mode Miniatures. Cobra Mode strives to create unique miniatures and really care about how the clothing, weapons, and pose tell the story of the character. Each sculpt is unique, so each model has its own personality, even when it's a part of a larger line within the same species. Andrea from Cobra Mode told me that she really loves that they're able to make the miniatures that they always wanted to see but they could never find. They really have some of the most unique sculpts that you can get in 3D printing, and I love to support creators that have a true passion for what they're making. All of their models come pre-supported in both 32mm and 54mm, and they include D&D 5th edition stats, lore, and access to their Discord where you can speak with the artists and sculptor and get support for any 3D printing questions you might have. You can get a bunch of models every single month by joining Cobra Mode's Patreon. The links are in the video description below, and you get an awesome welcome gift for joining there. If you just want to try out 1 or 2 of their models, go over to their My Mini Factory page, also in the links below, and you can check them out there as well. A big thank you to Cobra Mode Miniatures for supporting the channel. Now let's get back to the video. Next, we need to talk about lights and shadows. If you look at any miniature painted out there, whether by you or somebody else, the difference between one that looks amazing, one that looks good, and one that looks meh often comes down to how well they painted or didn't paint the the lights and shadows. And when it comes to adding volume and depth to a model through light and shadow, there are three main questions that you need to always be thinking about in this process. 1, what direction is the light coming from? 2, what is the basic shape of the surface I'm painting? And 3, what material is the surface made out of? Now, I know you're saying, John, this video is supposed to be about painting fast and having fun, and those seem like three pretty serious questions. And I don't want you to actually feel like you need to memorize those questions. But what you're trying to do is teach your subconscious brain to go through those questions without you thinking about it. So you just get to act, and you just get to enjoy the painting process. And how you do that is through repeatedly painting things with volumes, lights, and shadows. And if you do it enough times, you're not actually going to be thinking about how big to place the highlight, where to place it, well, how bright should it get, how much reflection does the surface have. Because you've just done it so many times, your brain skips that step, does the work for you, and you don't have to think about it. Now, when I was early on in trying to improve my ability to paint lights and shadows, what I would do is keep a sticky note on the corner of my painting desk, and it had those three questions written on it. So I would always just glance at that, and it'd be a visual reminder to myself that I need to worry about painting the lights and the shadows. And eventually, one day, I just threw the sticky note away. I just didn't need it anymore because I was subconsciously going through those questions and just painting in that way. And by painting fast, but with purpose, I get to go through these repetitions, get to improve in my ability to paint lights and shadows, and I'm knocking out a bunch of minis in the process. And one final tip on painting highlights and shadows, and this is the #1 bit of feedback that I give my patrons when they come asking for feedback and how to improve in miniature painting. And that is, always highlight a surface brighter than you think you need to. Because we're dealing with such tiny models, we need these bright jumps in contrast for them to really pop and stand out for us. And the great part about this is it's really easy to go back and bring the color back together if you've highlighted too much. Just thin down your base color with a bunch of water so it's a glazed consistency and just cover over the whole surface again, and it brings it back together. So you're not going to make more mistakes or more work for yourself in this regard. But if you don't go bright enough to the first place, you're just never going to get a wow mini like you could if you did so. All right, because we're trying to get our model painted quickly, we need to worry about the booby traps that are all around us that will suck away more time than we want to spend. And one of the most important ones is all the beautiful details that are sculpted on the miniatures that we paint. They take so much time if we want to paint them as well as we possibly can, and it is not worth the effort. The goal is to keep each of these details less eye-catching, less vibrant, and less detailed than the 1 to 2 main focal points of our model. For our budgie here, the feathers and the bright, vibrant colors across him are most important. All those other little details around him, I'm not going to paint as vibrant or as detailed as the feathers. Each of the details will only get 1 to 2 levels of highlights and 0 to 1 levels of shadows. But each of these highlights should make a sizable step. If you can't see it, then it wasn't worth painting it. Don't go over with too thin of paint. It should be just a bit thicker than water, and it shouldn't fade away to hardly visible after it dries on the mini. Another important tip is that as I'm painting all these extra details on the model, I'm not grabbing more paints off my shelf to paint them. See, I already have the colors I need on my palette, and if I don't see one that I need, I bet you can mix it if you try. It doesn't need to be 100% perfect color match of what your brain is envisioning, because when we're not going away from the painting desk, we're spending more time getting it done, we're learning more about mixing our paints, and we're getting through the process faster and learning something while we're achieving our goal. All right, real talk for a second. The reason why that this paint style is so damn enjoyable for me is because it does something weird to my brain. It releases these feel-good chemicals. And it does that because I feel like I've achieved something. And not only did I get that satisfaction of completing something, but I've done it in a relatively quick period of time. So I don't feel like I've wasted a whole bunch of my life just to create one single model. And next, I feel like I'm actually learning in that process as well. So the combination of those two things really feels good. And then finally, with the final product, doesn't make me feel like, oh, I just got it done and not really caring how it looks because I know it's not that great. It's I got it done. I got it done quickly. But it's something that I can tell it's better than my last mini. And that makes me feel excited to start the next one. And what's great about this style is getting better at it and getting faster with it doesn't just equate to getting better with just this style. If you go back and then paint an entire army, you'll find that you'll be faster at getting to the same level of quality, or in the same amount of time, you'll get to 1 or 2 steps higher in quality. And also, you'll be quickly getting to a point on a model that you want to spend more time on, that you're really happy with, and then you can just spend more hours focusing on what you really want to take to the next level. Oh, and as a bonus, you chip away at that increasingly taller and more dangerous mountain known as your pile of shame even faster. Thank you for hanging out today. You know, I never really put it into words, but one of the main focuses that I have for this channel is to really make miniature painting fun and approachable, because it is, and you should do it. So do it. And I only get to spend my days making them because amazing people like you watch them. So thank you. And a special thank you to all my patrons that support me over on Patreon and allow me to keep at it and do this full time. Without your support, this wouldn't be possible. So if you want to join the Ninja on Patreon, take a look in the video description below and check out that link and see the cool rewards you get for joining us over there as well. I'm going to see you real soon with another video, but in the meantime, maybe you should give some speed painting with a purpose a go, because it is kind of a great way to slay the gray.
Check out all these thousands of nerd hours wasted here. In this case, it's so sad. Like, you add up all the hours that are in this case, that's like a grown dog, man. Probably like a little dog, you know, like in them little wiener dogs. Full life of a wiener dog, right there in that case. Think all you could have done with your life. But you painted a little green spaceman, so hey man, I'm sure you're happy.